So this is a review of an MTSS strategy called the Daily Check-In Report, and it's something that I strongly recommend for any student that is having problems with ownership or struggling to get things done and to own the work that they're supposed to be doing. And also when there's need for an extra layer of communication between parents, teachers, students, stakeholders. So the way this would be used is not to supplant something like access to an online learning portal like Schoology, where the materials are posted, which is really where a student should be checking what they're supposed to be doing, and Infinite Campus or something like that, where the student would be checking their grades. And parents should have access to those materials as well and be checking on a routine basis. But this is not a replacement for that. This is like when that's not working and we need an extra layer of support. So the way this could work is that the student would write on the rightmost available column the information for the current class they're in. So for example, let's say today is 8:30 and the student is going to their first period biology class. And so they write that information down. And then they will say, okay, what was today's work on this biology class? So let's say, for example, they had to read Unit 1, Lesson 1, Exploration 2, something like that. And then if you hit Control Enter, you can get another line because there was a second task. Let's say that it was supposed to do a activity, and let's say that was supposed to be called modeling Earth spheres. Okay, so they write down the things they need to do. So then on the next column, they write what they actually got done. So they say, I finished the reading and most of the activity. All right, awesome. Now, the next column here is where the student would enter a habits of success grade. Now, this is the grade for how they feel, what they feel they've accomplished in terms of how well they worked as a student. They pay attention, they work hard, that they ask questions, right? Those habits of success that we expect to see of a student. And maybe they use a scale, like from 1 to 5, to indicate how they did on that. 5 being a really good job. And let's say they try their best throughout the period, so they give themselves a 5, right? And then some teachers might ask the student, because they're struggling with the class, to instead of just giving the grade, add a little bit of a reflection. It's like, what is it that you did well, or what is it that you could have done better? So that could look like it's a 5 because I focused and checked in with my teacher. I worked as hard as I could to get it done, something like that, right? Or they might ask, like, what is it that you could have done better? Uh, Maybe I could have asked for more help with the activity, something like that, right? So you can coach the student to do that. So they can give themselves just a grade, or they can do a little bit of a reflection in this piece. Then the next piece is like the work rate. It's the same kind of idea. So instead of working on how well you tried or how much effort you put in on or those skills of being a good student, it's just basically how well do you feel like you did on what you're actually supposed to have done. Like this is like a performance grade. So maybe you worked really hard and you gave yourself a 5, but you didn't really finish it or you didn't do a good job, and so you give yourself a grade based on that. And again, it could be something that ranges from 1 to 5, and again, it could be just a grade or it could be a mini reflection. So let's say they give themselves a 3, and then they say, I did not finish the activity. So that's why they're kind of giving themselves a 3 for that work. Next column, they put their current class grade, they go to Infinite Campus and they check what that is and they write it here. Let's say they have a 73%. And then the next column is like they give themselves a homework assignment. Like, what are they going to do for home to either get ahead or catch up if they need to, right? Now, they might not have homework every day, and they might need help from the teacher deciding what is it that I'm supposed to be doing. Um, and that's a thing they're supposed to check in with the teacher, ask them, and stuff like that. But in this case, they could just say, uh, finish the class activity, right, that they didn't finish, right? And it's good to be as specific as possible so they know exactly what they need to do. So finish the activity modeling Earth spheres, right? So now they know exactly what is it that they have to complete. And on the next columns here, it'd be more for the teacher comments. The teacher can just say, great job reflecting today, nothing to add. Because the student really did a good job of that. And then the parent can look at this at the end of the day, at the night, and say, uh, made sure homework was completed, right? Something like that. And that becomes a way to communicate. The next day, the teacher comes and sees these comments. they will be able to see what the parents said, and it becomes an instant communication between the parents and the teachers, which is a really great way to maintain that check in. All right, let's say the student repeats the same process for their next period. So that's period two, they go to ELA, and let's say today they had to read through page 195 of the giver book that they're reading. And let's say I got distracted with uh, my phone, did not complete the reading. Happens, right? So they're owning what they did there. Maybe they give themselves a habit of success of one and a work grade of one. Maybe they're struggling in English class. Maybe they only have a 62%. And so, again, the homework plan was to catch up with missing pages of the reading, right? And the teacher's comments is like, maybe the teacher might say something like, try several times to get in touch with student who did not respond during class, right? And so the parent was like, might be later on come in here and say, had a conversation with student about this behavior. Let me know if things do not get better, right? And so this is how it could look like. Now, it is the student's responsibility to fill out everything about that's highlighted right here, right? The student has to do that at the end of each period. The teacher can help the student by making sure that every time they assign or give the student a task, that they immediately transfer that into their work box, which is right here, and reminding the student to complete this at the end of the period. But it really should be the student's responsibility to do that, and even to remind the teacher that they need to check in on the spreadsheet. And the teacher could maybe save this as a favorite in their favorites and open it at the end of every period as part of their routine. Or the student can send the teacher a link to the spreadsheet as a reminder at the end of every class that they have completed the work. Or this could be something that's done on paper if you're in person learning, uh, where there's actually a printout for every week. But I really like doing it on a computer because it becomes a record. The cool thing about this is that when you run out of columns, right, you can click on a current column, right? This, and the student should know how to do this. So you right click and say insert column to the left, and then you can keep going. And every time you have a new period, you insert a new column. And the best part is that if you do this over time, you actually build a record of all the previous encounters that have been logged over here, because the older stuff will be towards the right, and then newer and newer class will be here. And if you have six classes a day, you might need six columns. So that's okay. Or you can even copy this sheet and have one sheet be per class. Say, for example, this one is biology, and then you make a copy of the sheet, and then the next one becomes ELA, and so the student will switch to the appropriate tab to do each of their classes. So that way, the records of each class are separate, and that's the way I prefer it, as opposed to have everything in one page. And you can even have a tab that's just about instructions to remind the student how to fill out each of the boxes. And you can have a link to the video that I'm recording right now in this instructions. And last thing I wanted to mention is you might want to add extra rows if you want to. So, for example, maybe you also want to track if the student is having attendance because the student is not coming into class on time, or maybe the student is routinely tardy. So you can add a row that says attendance, right? And then maybe the student on this row have to say something like on time, total absences so far, equal whatever, and then here they write the total number of days they were absent for this class, right? um, and so you can customize this for the student needs. Maybe you are doing this together with a adult who's being uh, checking in with the student in the morning or in the afternoon, or even twice a day, depending on how much intervention is needed. And maybe every morning the advisory teacher will come here and put a comment. So you have another role for the advisory teacher that at the end of the day or in the morning where they check in on the sheet, they might put a comment if necessary about what happened to that class. And the advisory teacher can also meet with the students every day to make sure they are doing what they're supposed to be doing in the worksheet, to talk to them about what happened in each class, their goals for for the next day or for tonight for homework, and they can make comments like I just described, and even help the student create new columns or set up the tabs for each class and teach them how to use the worksheet and hold them accountable to that, and then have conversations about goal setting and what to do next, how to focus, whether that's an intervention person, a mentor, uh, or even the parent fulfilling that role. This is what that advisory teacher is doing. And there is another example sheet here that I recommend for you to use as well, which is to set up goals for each day. So, for example, you can put the date at the top, and then in the first place, the student would set up their daily goals for what they want to get done today during their own individual time, and then they can even write down what they actually got done during SDL time, which is student directed learning time, and then what they still have to left to do on their own for homework before the next day, so they don't fall behind. And again, some space here for the advisor teacher to make comments or the parents to make comments if necessary. And you can even have another sheet for a support or intervention teacher to help the student log what is done successfully during intervention meetings or support meetings. And you would put the date of where you had the meeting on the top, and then what's the goal that we are working on together on that meeting, what actually was done on the intervention that day, and how well the student did. And this can be something, again, that the student does with the help of the support teacher. Again, we're putting it on the student to complete this sheet. And of course, we can help them if they need to and scaffold the process as much as necessary. But ultimately, we want the student to take ownership and responsibility to reflect as they're going through their day. And so, whether it's just to track what happens in classes, to track SDL goals, or to track support intervention meetings, this could be a one stop shop for parents, teachers, and students to track what they're doing in each of their classes throughout the day. So you can customize this as you need it, right? And add roles or remove, add more space for different people to interact. For example, the teacher can add on the bottom of their class some support links, link to the class website, or for some document the student needs to use every single class, that they will just click in there and open it. Since they would almost have this document open at all times for all their classes, be a nice place to just have a one-stop shop to find those commonly open things, and they can put that on the bottom, or they can create a new role to put the link to a Zoom meeting if this is at a virtual class, or write down the time that that class meets. And so this becomes a one-stop shop information for the student as well. So the sky is the limit. You can use this and be creative to help support the student. And that's why I really like this tool. And I strongly recommend using this with students that are needing to check in or who are needing that extra level of support and communication between stakeholders. And I hope that you find this helpful. Pair it up with weekly or even daily check ins with a mentor or person that they trust, can be an incredibly successful tool, but even on its own. So I hope you find this helpful, and that this helps your students do better also.